Hi, Lisa Gifford here, and today we're going to be doing the Survivor template set. The Survivor triangle quilt block was designed by our very own Gail Burke, aka the Crazy Quilter, and you can always find her on Instagram. But here are the supplies that you're going to need to be able to make this block. You're going to need the template set, you're going to need a rotary cutter, some fabric, some pins. When you open up the template set, you're actually going to get the full written, detailed instructions that Gail put together and includes photos. So that's all you're going to need to make this block. It's one of those very easy blocks to do. And let me tell you, it goes together like a dream because we are using the Martelli templates, which has that amazing get a grip material on the back. So this is the block that we're going to be designing today. And it's just a very simple, I think I got like 5 different fabrics. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different fabrics here. And you're just going to be using these templates and cutting them out. So your 4 and your 5 goes here. You're going to be cutting out your 3 here. But what's interesting about template number 1 and 2 is that you will be cutting them also in the reverse. So if you have your fabrics folded, you're going to get this, you've got to have the right and the wrong side for them to work. So what I had done was I just took a whole big stack of fabrics and I just started cutting a ton of them out of all the different colors, out of all the 2 different sizes of templates that I'm using here. And then I just cut out my star or my triangle here and didn't even really worry about whether it was on a straighter grain because it can go either way, but it's easiest if you have at least that one side on the straighter grain here for this seam right here, because the other sides, there's just lots of bias, so you don't want to do a lot of stretching and pulling. So the fabrics that you're going to be needing is you're going to need, she talks about using a 4 3/4 inch strip of fabric, or maybe using a 5-inch block. I went just ahead and just cut my strips at 5 inches, and then I just placed them on my strip to do the cutting there. This one here is 3 3/4, and I went ahead and just cut a 4-inch strip with it. And these were real easy. You could use a jelly roll strip, or you could cut your fabric into 2-inch strips. And I just did the 2-inch strips to cut these out. And I'm going to just show you real easy how quickly to cut these out. You just have your fabric, and just like all of our projects, you're just going to lay your template on there. Now, if I was looking for straight of grain, I'm going to give it a little tug, and I'm going to find out which side has the least amount of resistance, and that would be this one right here. So I'm going to set my template right here and just do my cut. So then when I go to do my final piece, when I go to piece it all together, I find that piece that's not stretching the most, and that's what's going to go against the seam right here. And then you got your cut. So here is, you're just going to cut them for every block. You're going to need one of these, and then 4 of these. I have a couple of samples here that were done. I want you to see how cool this one is, where they matched up the colors on every block so that they could get this look here. But if you see, it's going to be in a mirror image. Here it is where they just did a mixture of the colors on this one, and the same for these other ones here. So these are just basically placemats that you could make. But if Zeke wants to take a moment and pan out, I'm going to show you the one that's on the wall. This is a table runner. How cool is that? And again, there's your block right there. This would have been your block right here. And then you're just going to match up these triangles and just put these other triangles. Looks like these are 60 degrees. It's really real easy to figure out to make a table runner like this. And Gail goes into detail in her instructions on making, how much fabric you're going to need to make different sizes of quilts. I think one she focuses on is a baby size quilt, but you'll be able to see it in there. So what we're doing today is I'm going to show you how to make just this one block right here. And I've got all of my fabrics all cut out right here, so we'll just go to the sewing machine and we'll go put it together. So here I've got all my pieces all laid out on how I want my block to look like. This is one of those projects that would work very well if you have the Martelli design a block so that you could kind of move them around to get the colors that you'd want to be. This is also a project that if you wanted to be very precise, you could just have all of your fabrics cut and just stacked up, and then you just piece them all together. If you want it to be a scrappy, just have a whole bunch of different colors and you just start sewing your 1 and 2s together, you know, either this one and then you would just, you know, match up grab a couple of these 2 sets and then sew them together. So it could be very scrappy, it could be very precise. But I just got them laid out here so I can see this is how I want my block to finish looking. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to sew these 2 together and then you're going to sew these 2 together. And if I was to show you the back side of the one that I had done, I pressed those seams open here and then I did not press these seams open on the sides. So the first of the set of 4, there's 3 seams, I pressed the seams open. So again, grab our seam assist and that would probably help in, you know, making those really fast to pop open those seams. So I'm just going to grab these 2 right here and I'm going to sew them together. Now here's the thing, there's a little trick. When you're taking them and you're placing them right sides together, there's going to be a little bit of an overhang. Like if you've ever done those blocks, a block that has, like if you're doing 60 degrees, and you're having a little bit of an overhang there, so that is not a mistake. It's going to have that little bit of an overhang on this end, and if I flip it over, you'll be able to see it maybe a little bit better on this end. So you're going to start at a 1/4 of an inch, and I do a careful 1/4 of an inch. Don't do wide. If you was to do anything, I would probably do maybe a scant 1/4. And you're going to start right here at this point. You're going to be sewing right there, coming down, sewing all the way down a 1/4 inch, and then you're going to come off right there where the fabrics meet and overlap, that little angle right there. So you're going to do that on both sets. I usually have it at a pretty close stitch length too, because you're handling it just a little bit, and particularly down here on the bottom where it's kind of opened before you actually, as you're making all your blocks, you don't want those seams to come out. So I have a tighter stitch length. I think I have this one at 1.7 and I'm at a 1/4 of an inch. I'm actually going to make it just shy of a 1/4 of an inch. Do not stretch or pull. Just, if you use the rotary cutter, you cut every one of these out all the way around, it's going to match up perfect. So that one's already fed through, and then I'm just going to grab this one right here, do the same thing, and looking for that where it overlaps a little bit on the top, and you'll see it's going to do it on the bottom, here, and that's my starting point here, ending here. Line up your edges. Now you're going to have it when I gently pull it back just so I can make sure everything's lined up straight right here, and there's going to be this tiny little dog ear that's going to be right here on the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip it over and I'm going to open up that seam, and I'm just going to finger press it for right now. I'm just giving a light finger press, but you can take it and you could quickly open it up if you have the seam assessed with you. What you're looking for, it will have a small dog ear, and you'll trim that off when we go to put the triangle part on. So here's my 2 pieces just sewed. Now I'm going to take these 2 pieces and sew them together. And I think in the instructions, Gail has you doing 1, 2, 3, and 4. I just do the 2 side pieces, and then I sew the middle, because the middle is straight. There is no overhang at all. It's just a straight stitch, and they line up perfectly, and you don't have any area that you've got to make sure you get it right there in the center. So it's just a 1/4 inch straight down. And so there's all 3 pieces. So then you would just take it to your iron, and then you would just press these seams open. I'm just going to finger press them here. Now I got that little bit of a dog ear that's on the top of each one, on the top of that 2 outer pieces. So I just trim that little bit off right there and that tiny little bit that's off right there. So now I got this nice straight edge. All right, so I got all 4 pieces sewed together, and I went ahead and took it over to the iron and just pressed it with the iron so I got it nice and flat. So here's my pieces all sewed together. Now I'm grabbing my triangle here, and I want that straight of grain going right here. So I'm giving a little test on edges. Okay, there's a bias cut, but there's my straight of grain. So this is the straight of grain. Now it's not necessary, but it just seems to go on there just a little bit better if you just have that straight of grain right there. So I'm taking it and I'm placing it right sides together, straight of grain on the top of these pieces here, and I'm kind of lining it up to make it even on each side. And you'll see that it fits perfectly on here. So I'm going to start with my 1/4 inch, and my 1/4 inch is going to start right here, go all the way down, and it'll come off right here. So you're going to have that little bit of an overhang, and I'm going to pop it over on the other side so you can see it. There's that little bit of overhang. You want that. So we're just going to take it over to the machine and just get that stitched down. Don't do any stretching or pulling, just let the machine feed it through. So got that there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take it and I'm going to roll it back, and I'm just going to give it a good finger press right here. So it lines up perfectly right here. So I've got that little bit of a dog ear I've got to trim off on that side, and a little bit of a dog ear to trim off on the other side. So I'm just going to give it a good finger press here. You could take it to your iron if you want to press that. And then I'm going to just clip that little dog ear off here and clip it off the other side. So now we're going to take the shorter piece, which is your number 4. So remember we did 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3. Now we're doing number 4. So this is the piece that's going to go on right here. The cool thing about it is that it can go on either side. It's up to you on which side you want to be. It can go on either side. I have it going over here on this side. And again, pay attention to a fabric that if you're doing a real directional fabric, if you don't want your pieces to be upside down, so pay attention on your cutting on that too. And that's just a matter of just showcasing your fabrics and figuring out how you want them to be. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this edge right here is what's going to be sewn on this edge here. So you're going to fold it over, the short edge going over, and then you're going to line it up. Now you're going to have that same thing. You're going to have that little bit of an overhang here, and you're going to sew right at that point, and it's going to come off on the other end too. Now you could clip it and pin this down if you need to, but you guys know me, I try to avoid using pins at all costs. So I'm going to start right here and sew it all the way down. Again, let the machine do the work because you're dealing with a lot of bias right here. This is very stretchy. So don't let anything, don't do any pulling, just let the machine tuck it in, take it in, because these are cut perfect, so it will fit perfectly together. And it's coming off right at that point where I want it to. So now I'm going to just take my fabric and I'm just going to kind of roll it back and just kind of just press it, finger press it. Don't stretch it or pull it because you're dealing with some bias on here. Just give it a nice push, finger press it down, and look how nice and even it comes off there on the bottom here. And now we're going to put the next piece on. Now, if this twisted around so you can see how this is not right. The long side, you want the shorter side. So it's going to be going on right here. So you're just going to be folding it over You're going to have again that same little overhang right here where the fabrics kind of crisscross, and you're going to start sewing at that point right there. And it will do the same thing on the opposite end. Again, don't do no stretching or pulling because this is bias, and you don't want it. You just want the feed dogs just to feed it in. Little hint, do iron your triangle down before you go to the next steps. It just makes it a little bit easier. Lays nice and flat. And we're coming to the very end, and it's going to come right off at that little point. So there's my stitching, and now I'm just going to take it, I'm just going to roll it back and just finger press it, and look how pretty and nice straight bottom that I have here. And you've got a nice straight edge right here. So that is our block. So a lot of fun. Now the only thing left is just take this over there to the iron. I also like, if you want to keep it nice and stiff, you can just put a little starch on there and just spray it down, and it'll stay nice and straight for you. We'll go to the iron and get that done, and then we'll finish up. All right, so here it is, the finished block after it's all been nice and pressed. And here it is, what's showing you with a couple of the other ones. You could have them go out and look like this. Or if you wanted them just going right back and forth against each other like this. There's just again, one of those blocks that there's going to be lots of different layouts that you could do to make your piece. I could flip it around this way and have that look here and just kind of continue out with it. Maybe add in another one here or here. Just by how you keep adding the pieces to it, it will just continue to grow for you. So again, one of those amazing blocks, and just by changing up the colors, you can get a totally different design. Like if you wanted, like this very first one that we had done here, could you imagine having this look on the center of all of your blocks? That to me, that looks like a diamond that's in there. So again, have fun with it. This is Gail Burke's design, the Crazy Quilter, and you can find her on Instagram. And this again is the Survivor quilt block. Be sure to pick up our Survivor template set at martellinotions.com. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at quiltingwithlisa@gmail.com. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.